1, 2, 3, 4.
We're in Becton School, which is a part of the Becton Centre for Young People. It's the educational provision within an adolescent Tier 4 psychiatric inpatient unit. It's one of 3 parts of the Becton Medical Needs School. We have a provision at the Children's Hospital, and we have Chapel House, which is a kind of alternative provision for young people who aren't able to sustain full-time or regular attendance in a mainstream school through some medical need.
We were approached by the occupational therapists at Becton to engage with their young people in some creative therapeutic practice. So we started to engage with both in the education department and on the units, the psychiatric units themselves, offering a range of one-to-one and group work. When engaging with an institution, it's trying to work out what do they want from you, what do they want for the kids, and do they understand the potential of what could happen. So for the young people, all I really ask of them is to listen and to engage with what is going on around them and to respond. They don't have to necessarily talk, they don't have to know loads of facts, they don't have to have done any homework. Often I'll encourage the communication to be non-verbal. It seems to take a lot of pressure away and allow a much wider communication. It's about the experimentation that music allows you, which gives you confidence to experiment your communication in other ways. So much goes on within just making music.
The first time I watched the session developing, I saw straight away that there was a very therapeutic kind of approach, that it wasn't pressured, that it was centred on the young people, building an engagement with them from a point of wherever they were at, that the practitioners in the room were very sensitive to the young people and obviously clearly very, very experienced about working with a wide range of young people.
I wasn't sure what to expect at first. I wasn't sure about the level of engagement that you would get from the young people. I wasn't sure how the staff would respond. I think particularly as it's an outside agency coming into us, we had to think about how to support the musicians that were coming in and think about their access to different parts of the ward. There's lots of clinical information and confidential information around the wards, and we had to think about that.
I'm Billy and I'm training to be a music leader. When I first started, I'd say I very much watched Chris, my mentor, and saw how he was working with the young people and also the people that work here, how they approached them, because everything can be fine, they can all be focused, they can all be joining in, and then one minute one young person might feel a certain way about something and then go and sit under the desk and refuse to participate, and then that might then spiral off for the rest of them to disengage. You don't always know what to do and how to handle a situation. However, all the sessions here, there is at least one member of staff who comes and participates, but also who is there to support if a young person doesn't want to join in or feels a certain type of way.
Sometimes there will be, the whole group will be in here and everybody will engage, and then you go through a period of time where that's not the norm, and so some will choose to stay in the room and we'll have like alternative activities, something that means that they can drop out if they need to. And for any young person, that it varies from week to week because their experience while they're in here is not a smooth ride. So whilst they're an inpatient here, the very nature of the therapies they're receiving means that they will be very up and down in their ability to, or their willingness to engage in anything.
For us, clinicians that we work in this environment, we hear the stories, we hear the young people's concerns and worries and the things that they're anxious about, and actually outsiders coming in aren't always used to that. So I think offering support to the musicians that come in was a sort of an important thing that we had to factor in.
You're working alongside therapists, you're working alongside educators, and you're working alongside the sort of social workers. everybody is able to offer what they think that young person needs. And often my questions for them are, what is the young person having issues with? But engaging with what's important and how may I use the sessions that I work with to make that work. Having those occupational sort of therapist outcomes just at the back of my mind always when engaging with those people, searching for ways to improve their situation or give them those skills.
They get an opportunity to participate, to watch, to listen without any level of expectation. They get an opportunity to express themselves. They almost unfailingly access some level of creativity that they often didn't know they had. So they become a musician, and when they're in this room, they're in a musician escapes, and they work cooperatively when that's a struggle working in a more structured and academic classroom. I see them working without verbal communication, but just understanding, listening, feeling and expressing and getting all that out. And very often a real calm and focus coming over those young people, which you rarely see for sustained periods of time elsewhere.
We know that it's so important for young people to have the ability to participate in things that are meaningful to them. The young people that are attending music sessions at the moment, I know, are benefiting massively from it. We have young people that have a musical background when they come, and they can pick up instruments that they perhaps haven't played for months or years because of their mental illness. They've not been able to pursue those activities. We have young people that learn a new instrument or learn some percussion or use rhythms and explore different sounds, and that perhaps haven't had a musical background, and this is a new thing for them. We have young people who use the sessions to write their own songs, to write lyrics, and some of the young people have used those lyrics to express things that they've found it difficult to talk about with some of the therapy staff. So it's really, really great for them. Even
though the practitioners that arrived were very skillful in the first place, I think they now fully understand not just the young people as they come in through the room, but also the systems that are around them, because those do impact on the way that young people are able to walk through that door and participate in a session, and understanding the context they're in, as well as just accepting young people as they are, which I think is a skill they already brought with them. Now they understand the context, and therefore it's far more successful than even it was in the first instance. We had one young person who was struggling to talk because of the mental health condition and the situation that they were in. They were struggling to use their voice to communicate and would sign to staff. But in their music session, they wrote some lyrics about their personal experiences, and a peer who was a friend in the group performed those lyrics in the form of a rap. And it was wonderful to hear the first young person's voice through their friend. It was really nice that the two young people worked together to produce something that they both had a part of, that was personal to both of them. Those two young people were not necessarily an obvious friendship, but actually in that session they got on really well. They found a sort of common ground that they could work together on, and yeah, it worked beautifully.
We take young people from across the city of Sheffield. We're a commissioned service by the local authority for young people who are medically too unwell to attend school. The medical needs could range from recovering from a transplant to complex mental health needs and everything in between. That's the kind of young people that we get at Chapel House. The Music Education Partnership probably has been going just for this academic year on this site. Part of our conversations around its delivery was making sure that it was more than an enrichment, I suppose, that it sat as a bespoke offer that was a support for the young people when they needed it, but also a way to express themselves. It's part of the curriculum and it's embedded in what we do. We don't force it upon the children that are here. We do it in a really targeted way so that it's right for the young person who's participating at whatever level that might be. So we have a group where the young people might be a bit more quieter. We've got a group that go in and make a lot of noise, but we've also got young people where we recognise actually it's right for them to have that one-to-one. So it's really bespoke based on what their presentation is, but what we want them to get from it as well. So it becomes an intervention.
2 of my sessions here are intervention sessions, which they give me young people who are having acute problems, mostly in terms of 3 areas, either communicating, attendance and social skills, which is, so those are the 3 sort of goals for these young people when they're in the room. The music is probably the least thing I think about. I'm thinking about my relationship with the young people, my relationship with the staff, the dynamics within all the relationships within the young people, how best to sort of play all those so that we can achieve what we want to achieve. And then I might think, well, I'll use that instrument, or I'll use that. I'll use that structure. You try and impose something on the vulnerable young people, and they will immediately sort of push away it. So a much more successful approach is to have a very open session, to let it be young person led, and support them to make the decisions of what they would like to do and what they'd like to achieve. They need to be able to trust their vulnerability with you, and you can only do that by being a really good listener, by being very open to what they present, to be and take them at face value and not come with any preconceptions.
Once they can trust you and know that you're not going to judge them, that's when the magic starts, because they can relax and begin to feel like what they are doing is from them more than from what maybe they think that you expect from them. So today we were working with this young person who normally just plays on guitar, sometimes bass, but sticks to kind of what he knows. But he wanted to branch out and start singing, songwriting. So we tried a few different techniques for songwriting, and then we went on to actually using the lyrics to make it sound. And you know, I think he was a bit uneasy about it to start with, but then he was coming up with melodies to the lyrics, and it was great, and it was nothing like he'd ever done before. So the fact that he did that today was definitely like a milestone. I think it is in him to want to branch out and do a bit of singing. Singing is such a way to let go. It's like when you're sad or angry or anything, you just like sigh or you shout, even though that's not technically singing, it's letting out some form of sound. And then when you put that into like a song or a melody, like that's a release of a lot of different emotions. And releasing emotions is so important to moving forward and progressing.
The kids want to be part of the sessions. We never have to force anybody in. They choose to go in, and that's amazing. Some
of these young people are only coming in for the music sessions, but they're coming to the building. They're trusting that the institution is providing this activity that they like, and so it's building lots of relationships in other ways.
To see the value of it, you just have to go into the room and look at the young people and see the smiles on the faces, see how engaged they are. Just something even as small as being able to make eye contact with a peer, to acknowledge the positivity of the sound that they're making, that you can't measure that.
Seeing an energy, I think it's a measure of energy that someone has sort of found within themselves, and they have managed to sort of spread that energy to those around them. That sort of social glue that perhaps they've been missing. There's a tingle. My hairs on my arms are often going up and down during these sessions, and I share that with the young people. I go, look, you know, and they like that.
There's a lot of young people that started off disengaged or with lack of confidence, and as time's gone on, they're a lot more engaged, their confidence grown, they're a lot more involved in the creativity, less focused on being right or wrong, and just throwing themselves into it and just knowing that they can be creative and enjoy it and find that side of themselves that they might have not discovered before, which is really nice to see.
You're sowing the seeds of potential. If a young person remembers those moments, what you sort of hope is that you're skilling people up or giving them the tools, giving them the stepping stones to re-engage with society with a slightly different mindset.
It makes such a difference to their journey through hospital. Music brings young people so much joy, and in times when they're going through a really difficult time, it can make a massive difference to them.
The young person's positive creative experiences, we just build a catalogue of it. We do that through our arts journals here, and it's wonderful to see that young people who didn't consider themselves to be creative, looking at what is basically a positive scrapbook and flicking through it and remembering all those moments. Yeah, I just think the impact on the well-being and the resilience of these young people is phenomenal.
Brilliant.